Xian and his older sister, Marie, are the children of a low-ranking noble family that governs their region. After receiving conflicting messages from their father, Xian and Marie set off on an adventure to uncover the mysteries of magic. A sweet little girl named Marie waits eagerly in front of her house, watching a carriage approach. Excited, she runs to welcome her parents. Her parents are delighted to see her doing well and ask if she felt lonely while they were away. Marie assures them she didn't, as Rose kept her company, and promises she behaved very well. Her mother kneels down so Marie can meet her new baby brother, Xian, a lively and smiling infant. Marie thinks he's adorable and gives him a kiss on the cheek, leaving Xian frozen in surprise. 3 years later, Marie is racing Xian, but the boy can't keep up with her. The door opens and Marie runs to greet her father. Xian wonders how his sister can have so much energy. Their father is pleased to see his cheerful daughter. Marie remarks that she's as bright as the sun, just like her hair. Her father agrees. Xian approaches to greet his father, who immediately notices how mature his son is. The boy mentions that Marie is far more mature than he is, and Marie agrees, saying it's only natural since she's the elder sibling. But she knows her father is right. Xian is very mature for his age. He always helps their mother, no longer wets the bed, and sometimes has an expression as serious as an adult's. However, once she found him playing behind the house, pretending to cast spells. Despite his maturity, deep down, he still plays with his imagination like any child would. That night, during dinner, Xian asks his father a question. Do monsters exist? His father immediately replies that they do. They're outside the house, which is why they must never leave, as they're very dangerous. If they ever see one, they must flee immediately and seek help from an adult. Xian then asks about the existence of fairies and spirits. His father replies that he's unsure about spirits, but fairies do exist, though they are rare and unlikely to be encountered. Then, excitedly, Xian asks if magic exists. He becomes disheartened when his father says magic doesn't exist and that he's never even heard of the word. Xian wonders if his father might simply not know what magic truly is. His father admits there are things he doesn't know, but insists that he's well educated and is confident that common people know nothing about this so-called magic. He asks Xian where he got the idea. Marie intervenes, asking her brother if he feels alright, noting how pale he looks. Xian, in a very somber tone, assures her he's fine. From that day on, Xian never mentioned magic again. 3 years later, Marie trains with a wooden sword while Xian reads a book. After some time, Marie takes a break and sits next to her brother. Xian asks why she trains so much. She replies that as his older sister, it's her duty to train to protect him in case something happens. Xian doesn't understand what could happen, so she explains that if a monster or villain were to appear, she'd be able to defend him. Xian doesn't see how that relates to being the eldest, and she tells him that it's her responsibility to protect him, which requires her to be strong. Though her training is tiring, she doesn't dislike it because physical activities are her specialty. That night, Marie continues her training by a lake, where her friend Rose watches in amazement at how she never seems to get bored of doing the same thing. Marie asks Rose to spar with her, but Rose refuses, saying she's too tired from working with her grandfather all day. She asks if Xian is still holed up studying. Marie says he is, and Rose marvels at how different they are despite being siblings. Marie knows the reason Xian studies so much is because he wants to learn more about magic, even though he hasn't mentioned it in the past 3 years. At that moment, the lake begins to glow before their eyes. The next morning, Marie guides her brother to the lake, despite his reminder that their mother forbids them from going so far from home. Marie assures him it's worth the risk. They sit by the lake as lights begin to rise from the water and ascend into the sky. It seems to happen at every sunset, but Marie doesn't know why. Xian asks if their parents know about it. Marie says they do, as she showed them when she discovered it, but it seems they couldn't see the lights. She wanted to see if Xian could. Xian guesses that adults might not be able to see them, but Marie explains that some children can't either, and everyone seems to perceive them differently. She sees them flickering, while others describe them as continuous light. Marie says it seems like magic, based on what her brother said 3 years ago. Xian is surprised she remembers. Marie assures him she has a good memory, especially when it comes to her little brother, adding that he hasn't been the same since then. Xian's eyes fill with tears, touched by his sister's attention. After the spectacle, they decide to head home, with Xian now seeming more cheerful than usual. The next day, the children hurried through breakfast to get to the lake, this time bringing 3 wooden buckets and a fishing rod. Xian wanted to discover what those lights were and where they came from. Marie thought the lights came from the lake itself, but Xian believed they might come from a creature living in it. Marie didn't entirely understand what Xian was trying to do, but trusted his intelligence and was willing to follow his lead. Xian explained their plan. They would first fill the buckets with water. Then, one would hold rocks and sand, another aquatic plants, and the last fish. The first two tasks were completed quickly, but for the third, they couldn't catch anything. Even so, Xian was enjoying the moment with his sister and thanked her for helping him with everything. She replied that it was her duty as the older sister and that she also found it fascinating. If there really was magic in the lake, she wanted to see it too. Both were excited. The idea of finding magic thrilled them. Finally, a fish took the bait. They reeled it in and placed it in the third bucket. It was an Etten trout, a very common fish. Rose arrived at the scene, surprised to find them there. Marie introduced her brother to Rose. Rose introduced herself as a lonely flower blooming in this desolate village, but Marie explained that she was just an ordinary farm girl trying to act interesting. Rose asked what they were doing. Marie said they were fishing, but Rose found it odd they were doing so in that specific lake. She asked Xian if he too could see the lights. Xian confirmed he could. Rose remarked that the lights were strange and fascinating, which was why she occasionally came to see them. Xian excitedly started asking if she knew anything about the lights, but Rose said she only observed them without much thought. At sunset, the spectacle began, but the buckets of water didn't emit any light. Xian had tried to replicate the lake's elements separately, but it didn't work. He asked his sister if there were more creatures in the lake besides Etten trout. Marie said there were, and Rose noted it would be very difficult to gather them all. With no other choice, Xian decided to strip down and enter the lake. His sister tried to stop him, warning it could be dangerous, but Xian didn't listen. Marie joined him to keep an eye on him. Xian placed his hand on one of the lights, feeling a warm, pleasant sensation. Marie tried it and found it very hot, like a bath. Xian submerged his face in the water, but it was too murky to see anything. Still, he deduced that the lights were being released by some aquatic creature, likely the fish. It had to be something that moved, ruling out the plants. Marie asked how he figured that out, and Xian explained that the location of the lights varied, though he still didn't know what kind of animal it was. Marie lamented not being able to see better underwater. They left the lake, and Xian thanked his sister for her support and company. She told him it was unnecessary since they were family. Xian understood, but still thought gratitude and telling her he loved her were important. Marie agreed and allowed him to say whatever he wanted. Rose approached them, showing off a female Etten trout she had caught. Marie was surprised, as female trout were much harder to catch since they usually stayed at the river's bottom. She guessed it was mating season, which brought them closer to the surface. They placed the trout in the third bucket, and immediately the water began to emit light. Xian finally understood it was all part of their courtship ritual. Marie didn't understand what a courtship ritual was, so Rose explained it was when a male trout met a female trout, liked her very, very much, and decided to get married. Marie grasped the concept, but thought she and Xian didn't need such a ritual since she was a girl and he was a boy. She said she hoped to one day lay her eggs and have Xian handle the rest. Xian explained that siblings couldn't marry. Marie asked if he didn't love her, and he said he did, but that wasn't the issue. The next day, Marie approached her brother, upset because their mother had scolded her. She had told her mother she wanted to marry Xian when they grew up, and her mother had told her the same thing Xian had. Marie didn't understand why what she said was so bad when all she wanted was to be with her brother forever. Xian told her he felt the same way, but they didn't need to get married to achieve that. Marie argued that marriage was something special, and if they didn't marry each other, they'd marry someone else and stop being together. Xian promised he wouldn't marry and would always stay by her side. Marie warned that his decision might upset their father, but Xian was willing to adopt the child to provide an heir. He knew he was just a child, but he was determined to stay with her forever and made her that promise. Marie said those words carried more weight than marriage, but Xian didn't mind because he truly loved his sister. He hugged her, assuring her he would always be by her side. Marie hugged him back, and at that moment, Xian began to emit a light similar to that of the lake. Xian believed it might be magical energy that had unconsciously imprinted on him from spending so much time watching the lights. It had likely been activated because of the special moment they had just shared. Xian now knew magical energy existed, and if magic didn't exist, it was because no one had invented it yet. He resolved to create magic in this new world he had been reborn into. If you've made it this far into the video, don't forget to write the word Exquisito in the comment section. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video.